Okay, we're live. Come on, be part of it. Teal Shirt Report podcast live Sunday morning, November the 3rd. Florida loses to Georgia 34-20. Georgia 34, the Florida Gators 20. The Gators had it going early in the game and had a chance. DJ Lagway got injured. A guy, the third string quarterback came in. I don't even know, I can't remember the guy's name, but he played college ball, I believe, at Yale and transferred to Florida. And he didn't play too bad, but, he wasn't Lagway. Florida had a chance if Lagway could have played that whole game. There's no doubt about it. I think Coach Billy Napier had his team prepared. They did get beat 34-20. I think the score was not indicative of the way the entire game went. In the SEC, Georgia 34, Florida 20, the final score on Saturday, November the 2nd of 2024 here in Jacksonville at the cocktail party. There were also some altercations in the stands. I saw the videos this morning. I'm sure you've seen it, especially you folks locally here in Jacksonville. I mean, there were police officers throwing haymakers, trying to arrest people, and JSO is not going to make any official comment till all the investigations have been done. But there were a couple of officers throwing haymakers on the fans. Now, there were probably some refreshments involved. It is the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, or whatever they're calling it now. And again, Georgia won the game 34-20. However, like I said, I think Florida put up a good fight. You have to excuse the pun on the term there, but Florida did put up a good fight. I think Napier had the team well prepared. I don't think Carson Beck played that well in the first half. I think he came back and made some good throws later in the game. Carson's got to play better the next couple of games. I mean, they won the game and everything, but where will Carson be drafted in the NFL draft? Still a lot of football to be played. You figure the way things are going now with Alabama losing a couple of games, Georgia has just one loss to Alabama, and the Texas Longhorns, their one loss came to Georgia. It's hard to fit all this in rock, scissors, paper. Vanderbilt has beaten both Alabama and Auburn now. They polished off Auburn 17-7 on Saturday, November the 2nd. Vandy's beaten Kentucky too. They got 6 wins. They're going to go to a bowl game. This would be one of the better seasons in Vanderbilt Commodore football history. And Vanderbilt is not even on the Florida schedule this year. Maybe this is the best year to keep Vanderbilt off the schedule because they are tough. Give their coach credit. Clark Lee played fullback at Vanderbilt, so he's kind of a guy that may just stay there. I'm sure there's colleges that are going to offer him some money to go elsewhere, but I think he might just stay there and build it there. As long as Vanderbilt's going to have a program, they're going to be in the SEC, they got a chance. There's no doubt about it. We'll go down the list of scores. I believe Alabama was off yesterday. Alabama is a very interesting team where they're 6-2. They will play LSU 6-2. Those are 2 really good football teams. Those are a couple of teams that think, man, we could still get to the playoff if we can. What's the table? Check us out here at the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We are absolutely live. This is a live stream on Sunday morning, November the 3rd. The Jaguars play today, but not until 4 o'clock. It's actually a 4 o'clock game up in Philadelphia against the Eagles. That game could get ugly on the road. And I actually think that Jalen Hurts, the quarterback for Philadelphia, might be playing his best ball of the year. I think he had 3 rushing touchdowns last week, also threw a touchdown pass. But getting back to Alabama will play LSU on Saturday, November the 9th. Both of those teams are 6-2. That's a pivotal game. Whoever loses that game, man, they're going to be dropping back. Bama lost to Tennessee and Vandy this year. Alabama will play LSU on Saturday, November the 9th of 2024. a loss in this one by Alabama. And I think head coach Kalen DeBoer, maybe he finds himself on maybe not the hottest seat, but the seat's going to be warm and getting hotter on even the Alabama coach. I mean, he's following a legend. I mean, think about Nick Saban. He followed, not right away, but he followed the ghost in the past of Bear Bryant, and he supplanted the Bear. Now it's going to be hard to supplant Nick Saban. It's amazing. I believe Alabama was off yesterday on November the 2nd, but they'll be playing. That's a huge game. Alabama, LSU, both teams are 6-2. They'll play on Saturday, November the 9th, and that's a big one. Georgia Tech, I believe they were off yesterday. They will play Miami next week. I believe Miami is now 9-0. Is that correct? Can you believe it? It's been a long time since Miami's had this good a season, I believe. Miami now 9-0. Georgia Tech 5-4. They will play, I believe, up in Atlanta next week. A team that you might want to kind of keep an eye on right now is SMU. They beat the undefeated Pitt Panthers 48-25. Now, both of these teams are ACC teams now. SMU is now 8-1. Pittsburgh is 7-1. It was Pittsburgh's first loss. SMU smoked them. SMU, the game, let's see, the game, I actually picked Pitt. I had some information about Pitt, and I picked Pitt, and SMU proved me wrong. SMU was a 7.5-point favorite. And heck, they won the game by 23 points. It was in the Dallas area where SMU plays their home games. And think about the ACC. They got a team from a large market in Dallas. SMU is now in the ACC. Pittsburgh's in the ACC. Pittsburgh was ranked 18th going into that game. SMU 20th. They keep winning. SMU, if they keep winning, they are 8-1 now. If they keep winning, they got a shot at making some noise towards saying, hey, we should be one of those 12 teams, or at least be on the playoff bubble. But there's an ACC title game, so that's going to say a lot, right? Taking a look at college football scores, the SEC, Georgia 34, Florida 20, final score. Give the Gators credit. They played hard all the way to the end. The quarterback injury to Lagway hurt a bunch, and that was toward the late in the second quarter, I believe. Coach Napier had them prepared, I believe, for this one. Tough loss. There was also in the third quarter, there was a bad snap on a field goal attempt by Florida, and that hurt the Gators as well. Vanderbilt 17, Auburn 7, a final. Vanderbilt now has 6 wins and own conference wins over both Alabama and Auburn now. They also beat Kentucky. So Vanderbilt, 6 wins. They're going to go bowling somewhere. They're going to be in a bowl game. South Carolina, I watched a good bit of the first half of this game. South Carolina got off to I believe a 14-0 lead. Then Texas A&M kicked a field goal. It looked like Texas A&M was coming back, and they might have the better team. I think I went to sleep very early, around halftime or the early part of the second half. But when I woke up, it must have been all South Carolina in the second half. South Carolina 44, Texas A&M 20, the final. It looks like Texas A&M was going to come back and win this game. That's what it looked like to me before I went to sleep. Looks like Texas A&M was going to come back and win this game from the time I went to sleep. It apparently was all South Carolina in the second half. Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss put up 63 points. Ole Miss 63, Arkansas 31, the final. Tennessee's got to be the most fortunate team in the SEC. Tennessee 28, Kentucky 18. Tennessee is, even in their big wins, they're not scoring a lot of points. I think there's some issues with their quarterback, their offense. They don't score a lot of points early in games, but they hung on and won. And if Tennessee can get better, keep winning, they got a shot at being in the playoff. There's no doubt. They're a top 10 ranked team. Tennessee 28, Kentucky 18. Florida lost to Tennessee in overtime about 3 weeks ago. In the ACC, North Carolina blew out Florida State. Florida State has fallen apart after losing the bowl game to Georgia last year. North Carolina 35, FSU 11, the final. The FSU Florida State Seminoles fall to 1-8. Again, we gave you this score earlier. SMU 48, the Pitt Panthers 25. A final. SMU and Pitt both with only one loss now. SMU is 8-1. Pitt is now 7-1. Here's one from the Big Ten, now number one ranked Oregon 38, Michigan 17, the final. These games were played on Saturday, November the 2nd of 2024. So that's kind of our college football report. Obviously, I don't have all the scores. We're running a couple of scores on the ticker. I want to thank our sponsors of the Teal Shirt Report podcast. This is going to be, we'll make this episode show number 59A. Jags. Let me make sure I make a note of that. Boy, we're trying to get to, we normally do Jimmy Smith, 82 episodes, but we've done a lot of A's, B's, and C's. We'll make this 59A on the podcast. That's a complete list of a lot of games, a lot of things happening in college football. You are correct. I still need to do the BigJReport.com SEC Power Rankings. And now that all the games are in for Saturday, I think I'm going to make a list. Vanderbilt is not going to be rock bottom. They beat Alabama. They beat Auburn. They beat Kentucky. Vandy's got to be somewhere in the top 7, the top 10 of the SEC. They're not going to be in the bottom half, not with 3 big conference wins. And the season is still continuing. I know Vanderbilt's still got to play Tennessee. Boy, that could be a huge game. That really could be a huge game this year. And Tennessee not scoring a lot of points early in games. They are sitting just probably where Vanderbilt wants them this year. That could wrap up. I mean, if Vandy could knock off Tennessee at the end of the season, this could be perhaps the greatest season in Vanderbilt Commodore football history. Think about that. They've beaten Alabama and Auburn in the same season. They've beaten Kentucky. They still got Tennessee, their big rival, looming late in the year. That's something to think about. Florida now 4-4. Georgia's only got one loss. Georgia lost to Bama about a month ago. And then Georgia turned around and beat number one ranked Texas. So Texas is no longer ranked number one, but Oregon is ranked number one. Oregon beat really kind of a hapless Michigan team. Oregon 38, Michigan 17. This is probably one of the real terrible years in Michigan Wolverine football history. Jim Harbaugh left. He's gone back to the NFL. I think he's a great coach, specifically in the NFL. But think about this. Jim Harbaugh, the last 3 years he was at Michigan, he won 3 straight Big Ten titles, beat Ohio State 3 straight times in a row. And then to top it off, he won the national championship by beating Kalen DeBoer's coached Washington team last year in the national championship. Thank you guys for coming in. Please subscribe to our channel if you've not already subscribed. Give us a like, a thumbs up. We're going over college football. Gators lose, but they played hard. I think they fought the whole game. I think they were well prepared by Coach Napier. I don't think Florida could really, get over the loss of their quarterback who got injured with a hamstring injury back late in the second quarter. So it was a tough loss for the Gators. They played hard. There were fights in the stands. It was a cocktail party. I woke up this morning. I'm seeing these videos on Facebook of JSO police officers delivering haymakers to fans. Now, these fans were probably inebriated. They'd probably been cussing up a storm, and they couldn't be controlled. And that's what the report's going to say. These people got out of control. But the haymakers, I mean, there were more haymakers thrown in this game in the stands than a boxing match. Unbelievable. So I'm glad you're here. We're about 14 minutes in. Whenever we end the stream, it'll be available for you on YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel. On the ticker, it's got the Georgia-Florida score. Georgia's 34, Florida 10. We're brought to you by Saucer Realty and Capital for your real estate needs in Lake City. Or anywhere in North Florida, actually. Larry, that's where his home base is, near the Lake City, Florida area. But he does deals in Lake City, Gainesville, Jacksonville, surrounding areas. Larry, he sold homes in Jacksonville. Great real estate guy. For your North Florida real estate needs, remember Saucer Realty and Capital. You'll find a link for their website on our website at bigjreport.com. We got the college football scores up in the college football section in our sports section as well. Weather report, rain back in the forecast in Jacksonville and North Florida, about a 30% chance of rain. Still warming up into the low 80s in the afternoon. It's not as cool now. Low temperature, man, got down to maybe 67 in Jacksonville this morning. But we've got 24/7 North Florida weather up on our website at bigjreport.com. The Seminoles fall to 1-8. That is a huge story in college football, because I truly believe Coach Mike Norvell is a good football coach. They lost a lot of players in the NFL. They really had a big hangover after going undefeated and then losing in the bowl game to Georgia. Many of their players did not play in the bowl game, and it's been like a snowball. It's been downhill ever since for Coach Mike Norvell and the Florida State Seminoles. I mean, they got blasted by North Carolina. Did I put the score up on the ticker? I did. FSU loses to North Carolina 35-11. The Seminoles fall to 1-8. Florida Gators lose to Georgia. They're 4-4. The missed field goal attempt hurt Florida. There was a bad snap, but even bigger was the Lagway injury, I believe, that occurred mid to late second quarter. And that kind of turned the game around. Florida played a good game. I think Florida's coach Billy Napier, I think he had the Gators fully prepared after the open date. I really do. Florida's got tough games coming up. LSU, Ole Miss, Texas. I believe the next game is at Texas. Then you got LSU and Ole Miss. I think Coach Napier can still keep his job, but he's going to have to beat LSU and Ole Miss and Florida State. The Texas game, that's going to be tough. But if he wins 3 out of the last 4, I think he can remain the Gator coach. If he does not win 3 out of 4, I think there's going to be a change made. But I think he has an opportunity to win some of these conference games at the end because Florida's playing better. However, the problem now is the quarterback injury to DJ Lagway. You've seen Graham Mertz go down, the first-string quarterback. Lagway was basically the 1B because they were both playing. Lagway and Graham Mertz were both playing. Now you've got Lagway down, Mertz is down, and where's the third-string quarterback is a transfer from Yale, from the Ivy League. And I think that kid played hard. I don't think he could make the throws like Lagway or Mertz. He seemed like he ran the offense pretty good, handing off. And I think Florida's going to have to go to more of a running style game if he is, in fact, going to be the quarterback. The problem with NIL, you're not going to have a lot of great quarterbacks sitting on the bench because they're at another college playing somewhere. NIL is a different kind of animal. Jaguars play in Philadelphia against the Eagles. Eagles are favored. I did pick the Jags in the football pool. I might regret that. Philadelphia is a 7.5-point favorite. I'm saying the Jaguars will lose by less than 7.5. I was 2-3 in the college games yesterday. The SMU, SMU might be kind of a dark horse team toward the playoff. SMU 48, the Pitt Panthers 25. SMU is now 8-1. Pitt is not a podunk junction. They're 7-1. Georgia Tech 5-4 will play the undefeated Miami of Florida Hurricanes. I believe Miami is 9-0. Big conference game next week. Alabama will play LSU. Both of those teams, Alabama and LSU, both 6-2. In the comments, can the Jags somehow pull out a Philly special against the Eagles up in Philadelphia? Is Coach Doug Peterson on his final spoke, on his final May pop tire with the Jacksonville Jaguars? Will the general manager, Trent Baalke, even get fired if they keep losing? Who's going to be the scapegoat? I think the GM needs to be fired, Trent Baalke. They lose today. This is a team that the Jacksonville Jaguars are now 2-6. They should be, in my mind. It was a tough schedule in the early going. And Cleveland was a much better team when the Jags played them than they are now. So sometimes you catch the teams at the wrong time. But Jacksonville, the Jaguars are 2-6. In my mind, they should be at least 4-4. If they were 4-4 right now, they would be in good shape. Because the schedule, the second half of the year, in my mind, is not quite as tough as the first half of the year. Big cocktail party, haymakers thrown by JSO officers, but they were trying to control whatever was going on. There was some drinking, there was some loud language, I'm sure. There were threats between fans, maybe. You know how these games are. One time when I was a kid, I went to a Georgia-Florida game, and we had pretty good seats back then, and that's back in the 70s when there were still benches at the old Gator Bowl, like long benches, and they had the seat number on the bench. So you had to sit as close as you could to your particular number. And I'm sitting next to my dad. I must have been 7, 8, 9 years old. I heard the Georgia fans, whenever they'd run the ball, the Georgia fans would say, push, push. It was old-time football. And all of a sudden, later in the game, some people were drinking some refreshments. And mind you, this was at the Georgia-Florida game now. There's a guy in front of me, an old guy. He starts slumping over. I kept noticing. I'm a 7, 8-year-old kid. I keep noticing. This is a memory for you, right? College football memory. Guy keeps slumping over. Every once in a while, you wake up at the Georgia-Florida game and say, give them hell, Alabama. Then he'd fall back slumping again. He was about ready to pass out. The world's largest cocktail party. JSO officers throwing haymakers. Fans are videoing all this with their cameras. But there's no official announcement on the situation from JSO because and you can't blame them. They're going to research this. They're going to investigate it. And then they'll, Sheriff Waters will come up with an explanation. And I think he's usually pretty fair in what he comes up with after they investigate. But I watched the film on this 2 or 3 times this morning. These were haymakers that were being thrown by JSO officers. They were trying to control these people. And let me tell you, it was all kinds of different people. And there were fans that the TV people had talked to, at the game said they thought they used excessive force. We'll see what happens. But it was not a good situation in the stands at the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Georgia on top, Georgia 34, Florida Gators 20. Please subscribe to our channel. College football, NIL. I'm not a big fan of what's going on in college football, but there are some interesting games that have been happening, and there's going to be a 12-team playoff. This ain't your daddy's college football. This ain't your granddaddy's college football. It's not even my college football. But honestly, there's been some good games. Florida loses their first-string quarterback, their second-string quarterback, and they're still 4-4. Napier has them playing hard. I think they were well prepared going into the Georgia game. And my gosh, they had a chance to win. And then everybody wants to fire Coach Billy Napier. Now, you see Ole Miss put up 63 points in their game, and you're thinking, oh, we got to get Lane Kiffin. Would Lane Kiffin even come to Florida? I think if Coach Billy Napier wins 3 out of his last 4, if he does that somehow and can win 7 games, I think he'll keep his job. But if he wins less than 3 games going down the stretch, I don't think he's going to make it. They're going to make a change. Going to cost people a lot of money, the boosters and whoever's coming up with those millions of dollars, millions and millions. They'll have to pay Napier to walk away. I mean, heck, Dan Mullen got $12 million when he left. And what did he do? He went on vacation. I see Coach Dan Mullen stuff on Twitter. He's done some TV work. You got Urban Meyer on TV too. It's a heck of a life. It's a heck of a life being a college football coach and even a former college football coach. What happens to Billy Napier if he gets fired at Florida? Well, he'll become a head assistant somewhere, or well, I don't think Billy's got the personality to do any TV, but that's just my opinion. But he could end up being a head assistant somewhere. I think Billy's mistake was not hiring a top-flight offensive coordinator over the last year or two. But other than that, I think he's really prepared his team well in the Central Florida win, the Kentucky win. It turned out that the Texas A&M team is really good, and it's turned out that the Miami team is really good. Nobody else has beat Miami. Florida lost to them in the opener, and that's a pretty tough opener for a non-conference game. There were other teams in the conference playing some podunk junctions when the season started in non-conference games. So we appreciate you being here. Give us a comment. What did you think about the Georgia-Florida game? What happened? Do you wish you could have been there? Were you there? Were you there? Did you see some of the haymakers that went on by JSO? Nothing against JSO. They were trying to control the thing. But I've been to games, and sometimes people have foul language. Sometimes their team will start winning, and they'll start making fun of the team losing. I've seen it all. I mean, I went going to these games since I was probably 7 years old. Now, I primarily hang at world headquarters most of the time. We've got a monitor with a direct feed from the stadium. So I'm able to see most everything going on. And our executive producer, JC, gave me some tips on, our video. And JC, it worked like a charm with what I did yesterday. We could pick up anything and everything. If there was an astronaut walking on the moon, I could get a video of that. I could have a direct link to that. If somebody was walking on the moon, Elon Musk or some of his people are going to send somebody to Mars in the next couple of years, probably. So there's a lot going on. Georgia Tech, I think, was off. They play Miami next week. Miami's 9-0. Georgia Tech is 5-4. Are there any huge upsets on the horizon? What will happen when Alabama plays LSU? Two pretty good coaches, two pretty good teams. I think this is like a game, an elimination game. Alabama 6-2, LSU 6-2. The team that loses that, they're gone out of the playoff hunt for good this year. And I think if Alabama loses particularly, I think their coach gets on the hot seat with losses to Vandy, Tennessee, and then they lose to LSU. Man, it could get nasty in Bama. Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Eufaula, Alabama. It could get tough everywhere across the Dixie State or whatever they're calling that state now. And I've lived in Bama. I've lived in Georgia. I've lived here in North Florida. I'm back home now, but I've loved all the places I've lived in. I really love my friends that I've dealt with, in the radio industry and in general. I've got some real close friends, and I appreciate you guys supporting what I do. We have a lot of fun here on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. There's no doubt about it. I know I'm ranting and raving a little bit. Jaguars play the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia is a 7.5-point favorite of the football pool. I picked the Jaguars. Can they get under the 7.5 points that the Eagles are favored by? This game is in Philadelphia. What do they call it? Lincoln something Stadium. I took the Buffalo Bills as my survivor pick. JC is our executive producer. I was a little thinking Miami might do something in this game. Tua's back playing. As long as he doesn't get hit upstairs, he's back playing. I got the Buffalo Bills as my survivor pick. The line on that game, Buffalo's favored by 6.5. I got them covering that. In Buffalo, I talked to a guy with the Buffalo Bills. I don't think he's in the Buffalo Bills Mafia, but he said the Buffalo Bills Mafia might be a little divided now. So, and that does happen. There's fan groups with the Jaguars. I'm not going to say which ones, but there's a lot of fan groups. Ones that I know of, like the Bold City Brigade. I'm not in one of those groups. Generation Jaguar has one. They're pretty good too, but I never did join one of those groups. I thought about it, but now I just kind of stay back and do the media thing with the BigJReport.com and the Teal Shirt Report podcast. What did you think about the Georgia-Florida game? Do you give Florida credit for hanging in there? There's no doubt Georgia had a better team, but Florida had a chance early and often in that game. Just too many things went wrong, from Lagway's injury to the darn bad snap on a field goal attempt in the third quarter. Georgia wins it 34-20. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Big week of NFL games. Big Sunday of NFL games. Houston Texans at the New York Jets. That game's already been played. That was a Thursday night game, and I picked the Jets, and they won. The Jets won that one. The Jets beat the Texans back on Thursday night. Okay, here's the Sunday games. Miami Dolphins playing the Buffalo Bills at 1 o'clock. Carolina Panthers host the Saints at 1 o'clock. New England Patriots at the Tennessee Titans at 1 o'clock today. Denver Broncos at the Baltimore Ravens, 1 o'clock. Cowboys at the Falcons, 1 o'clock game in Atlanta. The Washington Commanders been a hot team playing up the New York Giants, 1 o'clock kickoff. Cincinnati Bengals host the Raiders. I think the Raiders may give them a game today. Cincinnati's a 7.5-point favorite. The LA Chargers and Coach Jim Harbaugh, they're going to be playing at the Brownies. The Brownies have gone down the tubes ever since they beat the Jaguars. And something happened. They started going down the tubes. The Jaguars caught teams at the wrong time. Cleveland was a much better team when they played the Jaguars. And there's things that could be said about that, obviously. But LA Chargers at the Cleveland Browns. I'm taking the Chargers. They're 1.5-point favorite. I think they cover that on the road. How about that? Chicago Bears at the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona is actually a 1.5-point favorite. So Arizona is a better team than they were last year. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to take the Bears over the Cardinals, though. I'm going to take the Jaguars to get under the 7.5-point favorite. The Philadelphia Eagles are 7.5-point favorite, but I'm going to take the Jaguars to at least push the Eagles, where the Jags lose by less than 7.5. Now, if you know anything about the Jacksonville Jaguars, you know that when they lost 30-27 final score, Green Bay milked the clock, kicked a field goal on like the final play of the game, short field goal, won the game 30-27. That was typical the way the Jacksonville Jaguars have lost football games the last couple of years and beyond. Been a lot of gut-wrenching losses by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I've been with this team even before they started playing. I covered the Jaguars in 93 when the NFL, in its infinite wisdom, awarded Jacksonville, Florida, to the chagrin and the surprise of most of the national media. The Jacksonville, Florida market got an NFL team back in 93, November of 1993. Then started playing regular season games in 1995. I was at the first game where the Jaguars lost to the Houston Oilers 10-3 way back in September of 1990. Man, I had great seats for that game. I was sitting like on the 30 or 35 yard line too. But we were running the radio station up in Western Georgia at that time. So I think I might be having, now and then we have a Wi-Fi issue. It shouldn't be the case because we've got really good internet here, but I don't know, between the broadcast going from StreamYard to YouTube, you just never know. On our ticker, Florida loses 34-20, Georgia 34, Florida 20 final on Saturday, November the 2nd of 2024. FSU loses to North Carolina 35-11. Seminoles now fall to 1-8. We gave you not all of them, but most of the college football scores throughout the SEC, ACC, and somehow Oregon's number one ranked in the country, and they beat up I think the Michigan quarterback might have even quit the week of this game. I think I'd heard a story about that. Oregon 38, Michigan 17, the final. Wow. High school football, you can find high school football scores on our website at bigjreport.com. High school football scores at bigjreport.com on our homepage. We got a lot of high school football scores up for North Florida, South and Western Georgia, and that corner of Southeast Alabama as well. So check the high school football scores on our website at bigjreport.com. Please do subscribe to the channel. If you've not subscribed, we've got people subscribing. We just recently started on YouTube. We've been audio podcasting for years, since about mid-January. Was it mid-January of 2020? We started the podcast. So this is basically our 5th year of doing the Teal Shirt Report podcast. So I want to thank the coffee boy for the outstanding coffee. JC is our executive producer. I want to thank Alex Nunnery, another producer. Alex is covering Bold City. He's been covering Bold City, the Bold City Rattlers, a new entry into minor league basketball and semi-pro basketball. The Bold City Rattlers here in Jacksonville. There's, the 95ers. Let me repeat that slowly. The 95ers play in a higher league. So there's actually 2 minor league or semi-pro basketball teams in Jacksonville, the 95ers. and the Bold City Rattlers. The Jacksonville Giants won some championships, but they're kind of a thing of the past now for the last couple of years. They kind of folded up their tents, but they had a great run, the Jacksonville Giants. Some of those players are with the 95ers now, and I think a couple of them may be with this new team, the Bold City Rattlers. And Alex Nunnery has some videos also up on our channel as well. He's one of our producers. I want to thank our executive producer, JC, another producer, Alex Nunnery, and we want to thank John Gaylor, our contributor and correspondent, who we communicate a lot with during Gator games, Jaguars games, and during the week as well with things going on. It'll be interesting to get the inactives on who's not going to play. I heard Brian Thomas Jr. battling an injury. He could be out this week. He might be an inactive. Parker Washington, for me, is a key cog. See what he can do at wide receiver. But this is a road game in Philadelphia against a team that has a much better record than the Jaguars. I think the Eagles are 5-2 or 5-3. Let me go ahead and pull up the latest line before we go on the Jacksonville Jaguars Philadelphia Eagles game, because there's money going on this team. Wednesday, the Eagles were a 7.5-point favorite. We'll go ahead and pull the line up now. We want to thank everybody for tuning into our podcast, the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Georgia beat Florida 34-20 in the cocktail party at Everbank Stadium. News from the Georgia-Florida Georgia game, if you will. While the stadium is being redone, and here in Jacksonville, there's going to be a new Everbank Stadium. So the Georgia-Florida game will take a hiatus from Jacksonville in 2026 and 2027. Now next year's game will be here again at Everbank Stadium, but in 2026, the game is going to be in Atlanta. And in 2027, the game will be in Tampa. And then back in Jacksonville when the stadium is completed in the fall of 2020. Philadelphia Eagles, Jacksonville Jaguars play today. Let me see if I can get a new consensus line on the game. When I did the football pool on Wednesday, the gentleman that did the football pool had set the line at Philadelphia 7.5-point favorite. Let me see if I can pull up the latest line on the game. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to go to one of my go-to sources here. I'm trying to pull up my go-to source. Give me a moment here. So the Philadelphia Eagles and the Jacksonville Jaguars playing today. The Jaguars are 2-6. The game will be kicked off at 4:05 p.m. today on Sunday, November the 3rd at Lincoln Financial Field up in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. Let's see if we've got... Let's see. I'm looking at Eagles 7.5-point favorite. It looks like over-under is about 46. And I'm not getting as much information as I want on this game, but we'll still try to see what we can find here. People got their articles. Jaguars.com has 10 keys to victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Man, what the Jaguars must do to win. Stop the run. The Eagles want to run. Okay. Tank Bigsby is going to be a key player in this one for the Jacksonville Jaguars, no doubt. Today is Sunday, November the 3rd. I'm right here. My name is Scott, your host on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. And I'm going to see if I can get some more information on this particular game. Let's see here. I'm not really getting the info I want, but we do know that the game is 7.5 points. Now maybe I think I'm getting something. Here we go. Now we're getting a little bit more definitive information on the game. Okay. Today's game, Sunday, November the 3rd, 2024, at 4:05 p.m. Eastern Time, Lincoln Financial Field up in Philadelphia. The line for the game is down to 7. Philadelphia favored by, they're -7. Philadelphia favored by 7. When I did the football poll, I'm getting 7.5 points, which means Philly wins by 7. That would still win me. That would win me that particular game in the football poll by picking the Jaguars, as you know. The over-under has gone up 0.5 point. Looks like 46.5. Philadelphia now a 7-point favorite. They were a 7.5-point favorite. This is an update. Let's see here. Our source is saying the Philadelphia Eagles will win. Not only win, but cover the spread of the 7 points, and the total will go under. And the total, I'm looking at either 46 or 46.5 points for the total. So that's the very latest on today's game coming up in Philadelphia. Up in Philadelphia, by the way. We appreciate you guys tuning into the Teal Shirt Report podcast. I'm absolutely your host, Scott, on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Follow what we do at bigjreport.com. bigjreport.com. Check us out. We're all plugged in here at World Headquarters. Final stretch run of the 2024 election. I still got to vote, and I definitely am. And I hope you guys get out and exercise your right to vote, no matter what candidate you're voting for. Please make your choice. I have. I'm not going to talk politics on this podcast, and I'm going to leave it at that. But we're talking football, high school football. There's a lot of high school football scores on our website at bigjreport.com too. We cover North Florida weather, college football, high school football, the news, the sports, the weather at bigjreport.com. Thank you for watching our podcast. Again, I am your host, Scott. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I think I got a couple of comments. And this is the live stream that's going to come to an end now for today, or for this time. We may be back here a little later this afternoon, but this is the morning live stream of Sunday, November the 3rd. So it's still up there. You can still watch it even after the recording. Thank you guys for listening, watching, and subscribing to our channel. Give us a thumbs up. If you like the broadcast, again, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Comments. What did you think about the Florida-Georgia game? And do the Jaguars have a prayer today up in Philadelphia? Thanks for tuning into the Teal Shirt Report podcast, episode show number 59A. You guys have a great day. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the games. Let's hope the games do not get too gut-wrenching out there. And the haymakers at the Georgia-Florida game, man, if you watch those videos, man, I have to digest that too, just like the games. I mean, the fans are out of control. There's been some refreshments involved, more than likely. Be careful what amendments you vote for or against, especially for. Be careful. Read the amendments. Know what you're voting on or against. I'm going to vote, and you should exercise your vote too. You guys have a great day. I'm your host, Scott. This has been the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We've been eloquently produced by our executive producer, JC, also by another producer, Alex Nunnery. And a special thank you to our contributor and correspondent, Mr. John Gaylor. You guys have a great day. It's Sunday, November the 3rd. Enjoy the games. And if you got anything you want to throw out there about anything about the Georgia-Florida game, the Jaguars, Florida State, are you mad? Are you mad about anything? Put it in the comments, and we'll get to it. You guys have a great day. Thank you for watching the one and the only, the Teal Shirt Report podcast on bigjreport.com. Have a great day. Thank you.